Black Sports Northwest. Hit the subscribe button, like, comment, subscribe. Abel the Fabel Sanchez. This guy clearly is trolling. Either he's trolling or he's just an idiot. This dude, I'm sick of this dude. So this dude comes out and says that Sergey Kovalev was already deteriorating, and it wasn't because of what happened against Andre Ward. Big, total bullshit. He's full of shit. He's been full of shit. Abel Sanchez is a low-budget version of Eddie Hearn. That's what Abel Sanchez is. He's a low-budget version of Eddie Hearn. He's one of those dudes that he's trying to get some attention. His fighters are so average, he has to say outlandish things to get attention. Eddie Hearn does the same thing. So Abel Sanchez has said, he said that black fighters are not watchable. They're not exciting. They don't make money. That's what he's saying. They don't sell. Last I checked, the greatest 3, maybe 4 or 5 pay-per-views and highest grossing fights involved a black fighter. So that's a lie. Regardless if people were showing up to watch somebody lose, whatever, you watched. You bought the fight, you watched. If the black fighters weren't exciting, you wouldn't watch. The problem is this. Abel Sanchez has an average fighter in Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin is average. He hasn't beaten anybody. His best win is against who? You know what I mean? He doesn't have any great wins. And when he's being challenged, he runs. When the 160-pound division wasn't any good, his best fight was Danny Jacobs. He beats Danny Jacobs in a very controversial fight that a lot of people think Danny Jacobs won that fight. He doesn't rematch Danny Jacobs. He loses. He gets his belt stripped because he wouldn't go fight Derevyanchenko. Instead, he fights Vanis Monterosian, who was sitting on the couch for 2 years, rotting away. He's not a great fighter either. Now that the 160-pound division is getting good, now they're talking about they're going to run off to 168. So at one point in time, they were talking about they want to unify, they want to break Bernard Hopkins' records, they want to be undisputed. That was when he was fighting against the David Lemieux of the world. You know, so now that there's heat in the 160-pound division, now all of a sudden he wants to run to 168. Who's at 168? Nobody. There's nobody at 168. You got Ramirez at 168, but he ain't going to fight him. You know? So at the end of the day, man, Abel Sanchez is full of shit and he's a trash trainer. You know, I heard the reports that he was supposedly training Joe Joyce. And then Joe Joyce says he wants to fight Luis Ortiz. If Abel Sanchez is training Joe Joyce and he fights Luis Ortiz, he's getting knocked the fuck out. He's going to get knocked out. Because Abel Sanchez is not a great trainer. You know, he's running around, running his mouth, talking about Canelo stepped into the ring, a Mexican, but left the ring Floyd Mayweather in the first fight. In other words, he wants to try to convince the crowd, convince the fans, and he will, because a lot of you casuals, you'll listen to this kind of dumb shit. He wants to try to convince you that it's not good for Canelo to beat Gennady Golovkin the best way he knows how. If that means boxing and moving, the sweet science, that's not good. He's supposed to stand still, flat foot, and just let Gennady Golovkin just swing at him. It's dumb. He's delusional. You hear Eddie Hearn say some of the same dumb shit that Abel Sanchez says, not in the same way. You know, he doesn't make these racist statements like Abel Sanchez does, but he says wild stuff too. He says stuff that doesn't make any sense. So Abel Sanchez says that it had nothing to do with Andre Ward of why Sergey Kovalev was deteriorating. First of all, before Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev was undefeated. He beat Bernard Hopkins, went all 12 rounds. Bernard Hopkins beat Bernard Hopkins. He beat Jean Pascal. I mean, come on, dude. This dude was undefeated. He was the boogeyman. He was the bully. Andre Ward beats him the first fight, arguably beats him in a close fight. Some say Kovalev won, some say he didn't. I thought Andre Ward won. I felt like Sergey Kovalev disappeared the latter half of the fight. He gassed out. The second fight, it wasn't even close. Sergey Kovalev knew that he had met his match. And Andre Ward was just raking him to the body. Raked him to the body. to the point to where there was body shots that was clipped. First of all, before I go forward, Sergey Kovalev came into that fight with his trunks above his navel. So that means he learned something from the first fight. He knew that he didn't like getting punched to the body, and he knew that Andre Ward was a great body puncher. So he pulls his waist, he pulls his trunks up past his belly button, and there was body shots that weren't even close to below the belt. And he's sitting down, he's acting like he wants to take a knee, he's quitting already. He was already quitting. In the 8th round, Andre Ward hits him with a right hand, and that was a wrap after that. He goes straight to the body. This guy is sitting on the ropes, and everybody wants to say he hit him in the balls, and it's bullshit. Okay? That fight exposed Sergey Kovalev. And Alida Alvarez, I'm sure, watched some of that fight and seen some things that he needed to do to beat Sergey Kovalev. Sergey Kovalev is not a bully anymore. If you can last 5-6 rounds with Sergey Kovalev and show him that you ain't going to quit, you'll beat him. You'll beat him. And I believe the same thing is going to happen to Gennady Golovkin. That's the reason why they keep him away from guys like Charlo, Derevyanchenko, no Danny Jacobs rematch. That's the reason why they do these things. They do these things on purpose. And then they run around and claim that they're the champions, even though they never fought anybody. You look at Gennady Golovkin's resume, it's a who's who of nobodies. It's a lot of B- and C+ fighters. When he's been challenged twice. Danny Jacobs, and that was a controversial fight, and the last fight against Canelo, which I believe Canelo won the fight. And now that the fight is coming up next month, they want to try to convince Canelo to fight quote-unquote Mexican style, something that doesn't even exist. It's some shit that they made up, which if I were Mexican, I would be offended. Because what is quote-unquote Mexican style? That means, in other words, limited defense and just swing until someone gets knocked out. Just hooking each other to death? No, that's not boxing. Canelo Alvarez is going to box. And Abel Sanchez knows it, and he doesn't have any defense against it. He knows that Gennady Golovkin's defense is trash. He knows that. And he knows that in a close fight, Canelo's going to edge him out because he's a better pure boxer. So, listening to people like Abel Sanchez or Fabel Sanchez, like, it's to the point to where these trainers and these managers and these promoters, they need to get the fuck out the way. There's a reason why Al Heyman stepped in. He gave us boxing for free on TV. That was doing great. But then you got these promoters and these managers and trainers just saying dumb shit, and the stupid fans are believing it. These stupid motherfuckers are making you believe that you shouldn't get fights for free. Like, it doesn't make sense. They're saying all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's to the point to where I'm trying to figure out, do the boxing consumers, do the fans, do you want to be pimps or you want to be hoes? It sounds like you want to be hoes, because it sounds like you want the promoters to tell you when you get to see a fight. There's a lot of fights that should be happening right now, and we ain't getting them. And it's because of guys like Abel Sanchez, who's a trainer acting like a promoter. You know what I mean? As soon as the microphone gets put in his face, he sounds like a promoter. He's helping his fighter duck guys. But then he wants to promote him as being one of the all-time greats. It's bullshit. Gennady Golovkin is not an all-time great unless he takes on tougher challenges. If he can go up at 168 and fight Zurdo Ramirez, or he can stay at 160 and fight some great fighters at 160 right now, namely Charlo and Derevyanchenko. He can fight them. If he never fights these guys, he's just another guy. And nobody's going to remember who that guy is 10 years from now. We'll remember the Bernard Hopkins. We'll remember Roy Jones and all these other guys in these different weight classes that did great things, fought great opponents. We're not going to remember Gennady Golovkin because he never beat anybody. It's the bottom line. And they know that these guys have never beat anybody, so they get on TV trolling. They get on the internet trolling. They're getting interviewed by IFL and Fraud Hype and all these different publications, and they're lying and they're trolling. They're trying to, it's almost like the hand is quicker than the eye. If they can get you to look over here, you ain't going to see what they're doing over there. You know what I mean? You got to pay attention to these dudes. If you want the best fights, you want the bang for your buck, you know what you need to do as a fan and as a consumer. If you're going to keep paying for, Vanes Monterosian against Gennady Golovkin, good luck. That means you're never going to get great fights. It's never going to happen. So hopefully, the fans wake up and we can move forward and get some better fights, get rid of the Abel Sanchez's of the world and the Eddie Hearns and all these different dudes that don't care about the fans. They want to treat the fans like prostitutes, and tell you that you should be happy that these guys are fighting. At the end of the day, man, fuck them. That's one thing I will say with free TV, or at least cable TV. Lomachenko's on ESPN, because they got, Top Rank has a deal with ESPN. Showtime has great fighters. The PBC cards are the best cards in boxing. They're the best cards in boxing. Nobody's putting on cards like PBC. HBO boxing is dead. They don't have anything on HBO. It's Showtime, PBC, ESPN, Top Rank. They got Terrence Crawford over at Top Rank with ESPN and Lomachenko at ESPN. I mean, we're doing pretty well as far as that part, but there still needs to be fights made. It shouldn't be promoters getting in the way. We should be getting Lomachenko, Mikey Garcia. We should be getting Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence. We should be getting Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. We should be getting those fights. There shouldn't even be a question if we get those fights. But if the consumer and the consumer, which is the fans, don't ask for it and don't demand it, you can forget it. You know what I'm saying? We're going to keep on getting the same old bullshit fights we've been getting for in the totality of the last 10 years. Just a lot of bullshit fights. So, yep, that's about it. Yeah. Hopefully we get better fights. Hopefully we can get rid of the maggots in the sport. Black Sports Northwest, and I holla.